Right now, I'm going to take a big old dump on the ground, and then I'm going to throw it at you, and it's party time.
So please excuse my sarcastic tone. I'm a bit underwhelmed by the sample shown. Mr. Bistro fraternity guy, you got my ass full of bloodshot eyes. Get drunk and fight every night. Idolize Bradley, belittle women's rights. Homophobic, racist, and don't give a fucking hey. Do you think you can drive a bigger truck? So wear your baseball cap to the side to let everyone know that you're a nice guy. So cool, was so impressed. Lots of chicks in a barrel chest. Cause you're a real man. Punch for punch, gonna piss in your face while you're passed out drunk. I'm a nice guy, you're a nice guy. He's a nice guy, but all of you are assholes. I'm a nice guy, you're a nice guy. She's a nice guy, but all of you are assholes. Nice guys rule the planet. I just can't understand it. Conquer divine by deception and lies. Social Darwinism and an overdose of pride. I don't wanna hear it. Read into the lyrics, cause everybody gets their just desserts. As long as you remember that nice guy's finished. Mr. Whitebeater, you're next on the list. Such a nice guy who speaks through his fists. Prick with a penchant for messing with heads. A broken nose for dinner and breakfast in bed. Alcoholic, paranoid, and suicidal too. But you'll probably kill her before she gets away from you. She's in a pool of blood and cry. All your friends say that you're a nice guy. Have a drink, this one's on me. Look, you're doing fine, losing to your disease. Comatose, I'll pack your bags. Bury you alive, cash ready to gag. I'm a nice guy, you're a nice guy. We're all nice guys, but all of you are assholes. He's a nice guy, she's a nice guy. Hey, Tombo's a nice guy. All of you are assholes. Nice guys rule the planet. The podcast message. Put a body by deception and lies. Social Darwinism and an overdose of pride. I don't wanna hear it. Read into the lyrics. So let the fucking pill quench your thirst. As long as you remember that nice guy's finished first.
What's up, live viewers? What's up, live listeners? If anybody's on the Icecast, and what's up, podcast people? This is the Plex. We do the show live every Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. I'm also pushing the feed to other places, but don't go to those other places. Just come here to Twitch. This is where the fun is at. Support this project. Just go to echoplexmedia.com, click the support tab at the top of the page. Although my favorite way to support the project, obviously, is the merch, which you can get at eplex.store. I'm producer Dave. You can find me on Grindr. And this is what the people want.
Police officers, they've gone insane.
I don't hate the cops. And there's a person inside when the truncheon stops. Oh, don't hate the cops. Oh, when the raiders come, who will protect the shops? Don't hate the cops. They're a sensitive bunch if you don't stop throwing your rocks. Snap, crackle, pop is the sound of a taser. Your body drops, donate the cops. Donate the cops, donate the cops. Donate the cops. Thank your local police, 'cause they don't do nothing wrong. Thank your local police. Got rid of the corruption and the racism is gone. They've been keeping the peace, keeping homeless folks out of the parks and malls. Got a cure for your social disease. Follow the law, don't hate the cops. 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 Put your hands above your head and show you're not afraid. I'm the village judge that your skin color's gonna get. And if you die before the sun comes up, the paperwork will take forever. Well, it might have worked out a little bit better if you didn't hate the cops. 'Cause they don't do nothing wrong, donate the cops. You can't blame them for just doing their job, donate the cops. Well, you gotta wonder, how much would it cost for you to be shot at and stabbed at by maniacs and drunks? Donate the cops, donate the cops. Donate the cops, donate the cops. Donate the cops. Donate the cops, donate the cops. Donate the cops, donate the cops.
ABC News reporting tonight is giving us more insight on a story of death and mystery and anger over an apparent lack of good police work and accountability in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm talking about the story of Dexter Wade, who we now know was killed less than a half hour after leaving his home back in March. But his family only found that out this month. Wade was struck and killed by a Jackson police car, apparently, as he tried to cross a highway nearby. And even though police knew exactly who they hit within days of that accident, officials say, his mother, Betterson Wade, would spend the next 7 months. She would spend 7 months looking for her son. It wasn't until 172 difficult days after Betterson last saw Wade that they came together again, this time at his unmarked grave in a state-run cemetery. NBC's John Shoup is the reporter with this story. John, we're glad to have you with us today. The details here are just extraordinary, right? Because essentially what happened here is this 7-month-long mystery for this family, despite police apparently, according to official accounts, knowing for months who they hit, where he was buried, and not reaching out to the family. How did this happen?
That's one of the questions that we have, is how exactly it happened. But we know some details and a sketch of what happened. It began, as you mentioned, on March the 5th when Dexter Wade, he's 37 years old, left home and never came back. It turned out not far from home, not long after he left, he was struck and killed by an off-duty Jackson police officer. A coroner's investigator arrives at the scene, takes his body back to the examination table, finds a prescription bottle of pills that has his name on it. The coroner's investigator calls the hospital where he got the pills, gets the next of kin, who's his mother, Betterstein Wade, and forwards that information on to the Jackson Police Department's Accident Investigation Squad. Meanwhile, the mother, Betterstein, has no idea that any of this has happened. On the 14th of March, reports him missing to the missing persons unit, and for months is checking for updates and searching for him and gets no answers. Meantime, it's not clear why, but she was never told that they had him in the morgue the entire time. So ultimately, someone figured it out within the Jackson Police Department and let her know. And that's when she realized that while she was looking for him, they had assumed in the coroner's office that he was unclaimed and arranged for him to be buried in a pauper's field. And so as you showed the pictures just earlier, a minute ago, that moment came a couple of weeks ago where she finally got to see the grave marked only with a number of where her son is buried.
I know, John, that you and the team pieced this together from interviews with his family, the coroner's investigator, court records, documents provided in response to your request, a crash report, incident reports, other documents, office records. I mean, so much of this. It took a lot of putting some puzzle pieces here just to get, I think, some sense of what happened. And yet through it all, as of tonight, have you gotten any response from the police department itself?
None. As soon as just before leaving to come talk to you.
I will ask, like, what response do they expect from the police department? This is like such a massive fuck up, or maybe it wasn't a fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it was maybe it was an attempt to cover their ass because they fucking ran this dude over. Oh man, this is fucked up. This is fucked up. We're probably never going to learn anything more about this, and that's the worst part.
I was reaching out to the city. They're preparing some sort of response, but I'm not sure that they fully comprehend of how this mistake was made. We have notes, internal notes and documents that show what they knew. It's just not clear yet about why it was shared.
What does accountability look like for this family? Just quickly, John, what does that look like?
I think for Betterstein Wade, the mother is just somebody to acknowledge that there was a mistake. She can accept if an accident was made, but just an acknowledgement and an apology.
No. Oh, no.
It sounds like. John Shupe, thank you so much.
Oh, hell no.
Story tonight.
No. Head should fucking roll. Fuck that. Like, yo, they like ran the dude over and then like just didn't alert his family that they ran him over. I don't care what actually happened. Sure looks to me like they ran him over and then didn't tell the family what happened because, you know, they ran him over. You can't get inside the heads of everybody there, but that sounds like a cover up. That doesn't sound like an oopsie. That sounds like a cover your ass or an attempt to cover your ass. My God. Anyway, I put that horrible shit first because I did not know where else to put it. Believe Joseph E. Bacon in our Discord is the one who alerted us to that, and that's just a fucking horrifying story. There's yet another reason that people don't fucking trust cops. I mean, if you lived in that community, would you trust any of the fucking cops? Anybody that works in the police department after finding out about this? They found out who it was within a few hours. They knew who it was because he had a fucking pill bottle. They were able to identify him like maybe more accurately with other methods. But they knew exactly who he was because he had a fucking pill bottle with his name on it. They knew who he was. They fucking killed him when he was trying to cross the freeway. You know, maybe that thing was a freak accident or whatever. I could buy that. But then not telling anybody, nah. I start running out. Like, we do a lot of conspiracy theory content around here, and there are a lot of things that are coincidences, but there comes a time when you stop believing that things are coincidences. And this is one of those times. I'm having a hard time believing that both of these things happened as a coincidence. I just have a hard time with it. And it fucking sucks. Everybody whose name was on any piece of paper involved in that needs to be fired. Or like somebody in chat said, maybe just disband the whole fucking police department because apparently they engage in vehicular manslaughter and then a massive cover up of all of it. Anyway. Oh yeah, we don't really even know what happened because his body's buried now, right? So they couldn't get an independent autopsy or anything. I mean, maybe he was hit by I'm willing to believe he got hit by the car. I would even be willing to believe that it was an accident, that like nobody meant to hit him with the car. But then after that, them losing track of him in the system, nah. Again, nah. No. Those too much coincidence. Too much coincidence that you know goes against a black family in the South. Too many coincidences where they all negatively impact a black family in the South. My little fucking spidey sense lights up a little bit. Anyway, here's a news hit of the other big story. Well, the big story there's two big stories this week. I guess this is the news hit about the biggest story this week, the mass shooting in Maine.
Mass shootings in Maine claim nearly as many lives as the state's average of homicide in an average year. And now we're getting new insight into the detailed timeline of events leading up to the massive search, which continues for the suspect. Tarek Miner is joining us now with how this happened, how this all unfolded in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, Kent, the Auburn Communications Center in Maine received that first flurry of 911 calls right around 7 p.m. last night, setting off a frenzy of activity as paramedics tried to save the lives of the wounded, and police started their hunt for a gunman armed with an AR-15.
Going to be spare time recreation for an active shooter incident. And that's going to be the town of Lewiston at spare time recreation for an active shooter incident, multiple people down.
That first call to police for help came in at 6:56 p.m. from the just-in-time neighborhood bowling alley that was hosting a youth league night.
Oh no, it was like there's like a youth league going on.
People were seen running for their lives as it began.
Wait, were the cops telling the media to get out of there?
This was a mass.
Is that what we saw? Was the cop was that cop telling the media to get lost?
And the shooter was still at large.
We're very thankful that they were able to get as many patients into our trauma bays and into our operating rooms as we were able to.
They're reporting 16 people with gunshot wounds.
That second flurry of 911 calls coming in just 12 minutes later at 7:08 p.m. at Schmeggy's Bar and Grill, just 4 miles away from the scene of the first shooting.
The second will be at Schmeggy's, again, the town of Lewiston for active shooter incidents, all available units to Lewiston.
Witnesses at both locations say they heard dozens of bullets being fired from a high-powered weapon.
Victims at the Schmeggy's Billiards, 8 are deceased. 7 males inside the establishment, 1 male outside of the establishment. Again, also apparent gunshot wounds.
At 8 p.m., the first images of the shooter were released to the public on social media, showing a man walking into a bowling alley with a high-powered assault rifle. At 8:09 p.m., state police ordered people to remain indoors, saying there's an active shooter in Lewiston. And at 8:26 p.m., the neighboring city of Auburn urges its residents to shelter in place, lock all doors, and report suspicious activity. At 9:17 p.m., police release an image of a vehicle of interest, an SUV with its lights on and its driver's side door ajar. And more than an hour later, at 10:52 p.m., Robert Card was named as a person of interest in the murders.
Suffolk County got multiple victims. Multiple victims. I need every unit you can find.
County communications to all county rescue, stand by for activation. Multiple victims for an active shooter in the town of Lewiston.
And we mentioned a moment ago about the state of Maine's homicide rate. For perspective, in all of last year combined, there were only 29 killings in the entire state of Maine. The state's population, 1.3 million. Stacy, Kent?
So where the fuck was the good guy with the gun? I always talk about this. Maine, they armed up there. Maine's a blue state, but they got a lot of guns up there. So where's the good guy with the gun? Where's the fucking good guy with the gun? Did they defund the cops? Is that why this happened? I mean, we got to find a reason, right? We got to find a reason for this. It can't be, it can't be anything that makes people, basically people who look like me. It can't be anything that makes us uncomfortable, right? So maybe jihadist? Was it? Oh, wait, no. This neighbor, a person who lived near, the shooter, said that everybody knew to stay away from this guy. So it was because he was a jihadist, right?
And Liam, we understand that you grew up near Robert Card and his family. Can you tell us anything you know about the person of interest in these shootings?
Well, I grew up about half a mile away. Bowdoin is a very interesting community. There's kind of like a center hub near the school and the town store, excuse me. And then you have like West Bowdoin, but they all interconnect around the school and the town store. And I just happen to live near there. And the family complex, it's basically a compound. The family and Robert, they're all gun fanatics. They, for all intents and purposes, are very much associated with right-wing militias. It's known in the town to stay away from them and to not approach them. If you see them, you just turn around and walk away. I remember going to the town store when I was a kid, about, around 12, 14. And I remember very vividly, it's just been the image that's been kind of going around in my head, is I'm going to the store and there's a weigh station there for deer. So he had just killed a deer with his buddies, and the deer was hanging and blood was dripping on the ground from the deer, and he was covered in blood with a gun on his back with a giant grin on his face. And they were all smoking cigarettes and drinking their morning coffee and like praising each other. And also they would shoot guns all the time. Like you could hear them every day after school. It was like clockwork. You could hear them shooting guns, and the sound would ricochet up the valley. I could even hear it at elementary school. At times you could hear them shooting guns.
Liam, real quickly here, we only have a few seconds, but this is a close-knit community. Do you have friends who you know were injured last night?
Yes, there are some friends of mine that have been injured. I know there was a baby that was killed at the bowling alley. It was a children's bowling night. So I do know that happened. I'm not going to give any information out until the police officially release the names. But there's going to be a lot of heartache and tragedy that comes from this.
That's kind of a dick thing to ask. Hey, did he off any of your friends? Like, I don't think there's nothing journalistically valuable there. I don't think I would. Yeah, there's nothing that's like a dick thing to ask this guy, I think.
Liam, Kent, we appreciate you taking some time. Continue to stay safe, and we'll make sure to check back in with you, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to check back in to see the body count of the people you knew, actually. We're going to make sure to... How many of your friends did this guy kill? We're going to keep calling you, actually. Like, that was a good hit. That was a good news hit up, because they kind of let him talk up until, like, where they asked him, oh, did he kill any of your friends? Fuck you. I would have been like, oh, look, this call's over. I got to go. But if only we knew. If only there were signs. If there was some way to know that there was something going on here. Oh, I don't know. Maybe he was a jihadist. Who fucking knows? We're going to move on to the Speaker of the House. This is right before they voted in a terrifying person for Speaker of the House. Here's Kevin McCarthy. He is going to talk about how the same thing basically he's been talking about the whole time. He's like, oh, this makes the Republican Party look bad. Well, hold my Bible and my gun, I guess, because like what comes next is crazy town.
How does this reflect on the GOP? This whole episode reflect on the House GOP at this moment?
Oh, very poorly. Very, very poorly. From every aspect. And it's frustrating because it's just a few, these 8, working with all the Democrats to ruin the reputation of the Republicans. But we'll earn it back. There has to be consequences.
All right.
There's not going to be consequences. And well, I mean, Jim Jordan looks like an idiot, but is that really a consequence? Jim Jordan always looks like an idiot. No consequences. But here we go. Here's the guy they elected. I had never heard of this motherfucker. This dude's name is Mike Johnson, and he is a white Christian nationalist. And here's what he had to say. This is an audio only clip, but here's what he had to say about his fellow Republicans not owing any allegiance at all to God.
And that's why it's so jarring to be sitting in the greatest deliberative body in the world, the United States Congress, and to hear elected representatives of the people. You know, every member of Congress, every member of the House represents roughly 760,000 citizens, right? So there's a singular voice on behalf of all those people, and some of these voices now are in this chamber arguing that our rights do not come from God. Think about how scary that is. If you believe your rights come from government, then it means you don't really owe any allegiance at all to God.
Yeah.
You have no accountability.
Well, you're not free.
You're not free because the people who are governing you and giving you things in exchange for those things always comes a sacrifice of your liberty.
Absolutely.
So the problem with this is it's fine, like if like individuals, right, they believe, oh, my rights as being a human come from God because God is the creator of the universe. Sure, if people want to believe that. The problem is is the other side of that, right? If you're like, well, God doesn't like this group of people over here. I mean, I'm in that group. I think a lot of you who are watching this show live, and maybe I don't have any demographics on the podcast listeners, but maybe a lot of you who are listening to the podcast are like sort of maybe part of the group that this guy might think God doesn't like so much. And then, well, maybe you don't have any rights anymore, and it all is permissible. And that's one of the big problems with white Christian nationalism, actually. So we're going to move on here. Here's some more of this guy. He was interviewed by one Mr. Jonathan Hannity, we'll call him, and it wasn't great. It wasn't great. I don't know if Sean is short for Jonathan.
And this happens with almost every shooting incident. The immediate call by the left in this country, we need more gun laws, we need more legislation. What's your answer to that?
At the end of the day, the problem is the human heart. It's not guns, it's not the weapons. At the end of the day, we have to protect the right of the citizens to protect themselves, and that's the Second Amendment, and that's why...
Where was the good guy with the gun in the shooting?
So strongly for that. I agree with the comments of your guests there. This is not the time to be talking about legislation. We're in the middle of that crisis right now. But I just want you to know, and I want the American people to know, that all the members of the House here are deeply concerned about the families involved and everyone. And we pray for the law enforcement officers that are doing...
And also probably they're praying for the gun, too. Does anybody know if the gun's okay?
that hard job tonight that most people do not have the bravery to do.
You talk about the...
Does anybody know, is the gun all right? Has anybody heard if the gun is doing okay? Because that's what's really important here. Is the gun okay? Here's more of the new Speaker of the House on the Jonathan Hannity show. Great website over there, Twitter, by the way. It takes forever to get a video to play.
Is there any specific gun law that you would look at, or any new legislation you would look at?
Well, been on the job for 48 hours. We'll see. I mean, there'll be lots of discussion.
He's like, read legislation, get out of here. Yeah, you have to look at it, even if you're going to vote no on it.
After these heartbreaking tragedies. But your point is well taken. I mean, in Europe and in other places, they use vehicles to mow down crowds at parades, where they've done that here in the United States. It's not the weapon, it's the underlying problem. I believe we have to address the root problems of these things, and mental health, obviously, as in this case, is a big issue, and we've got to...
No, racism is not... this guy was clearly like a right-wing extremist. That is not a mental health problem.
Seriously address that as a society.
We would colloquially call him crazy, but that's a different thing than somebody having a mental health problem.
And there's lots of measures pending on that as well.
Oh my God, no. I mean, and the other thing is, like, if some funding comes up for like better mental health services in this country, this guy's gonna fucking kill that shit. We'll do one more clip of this guy from the Sean Hannity interview here. I don't like this guy. I'm like way more afraid of him than Gymnasium Jordan. At least we know who and what Gymnasium Jordan is. This guy came out of nowhere.
Let me ask you, you had a bipartisan briefing with President Biden. Hakeem Jeffries was there. Other leaders were there. You got a phone call from President Biden. Tell us about it. How'd it go?
Well, I actually had a visit with the president at the White House today for about 15 or 20 minutes. The other parties were running late, so it was he and I sitting there together. It was a meet and greet. I'd only met him once before. It was cordial and pleasant. I have no problem with President Biden as an individual, right? You respect the office. It's a biblical admonition that you give honor where honor is due, and that's the respect that we have for the office. But he and I disagree on almost no policy. So we didn't get into that too much today, Sean, but there'll be time for that in the days ahead.
Is there any one...
This guy's a monster. I'm terrified of this guy. I'm just absolutely terrified of this guy. Here he is during a House hearing. He's going to talk about fender benders and abortions. I'm sure this will be fantastic. It'll be just as good as the last set of clips we were watching of him here. Oh my God. Here we go. This is a hearing on abortion. Should be great. Fan-fucking-tastic.
Let me ask you, do you support the right of a woman who is just seconds away from birthing a healthy child to have an abortion?
I think that the question that you're asking does not realistically reflect abortion care.
In that scenario, would you
States.
support her right to abort that child?
I won't entertain theoreticals.
It's not a
That's
theoretical, ma'am.
reality.
You're a medical doctor.
I am a medical doctor, and that has never happened.
Never happened in your
healthcare-
practice, ma'am, but it happens. How about if a child is halfway out of the birth canal? Is an abortion permissible then?
Can you repeat your question?
If a child is halfway delivered out of the birth canal, is it permissible to have an abortion? Would you support the right for an abortion then?
I can't
Look, she's so confused by the question. Look at this is the what the fuck look.
fathom that ever.
I'm not asking you if you can fathom it. If it occurred, would you support that abortion or not? That's unrestricted abortion,
Answer
right?
a question that I can't imagine. Just like you probably can't imagine what you would do if your daughter was raped. If it hasn't happened, it may be difficult for you.
You're not going to answer this question, but
Whoa, dude. Like, she should just say, no, I don't support abortion in those circumstances. But but also like maybe not giving this guy what he wants is fucking important too, right? Like not answering the guy's question is fucking probably a better idea. Just being like, you know what? Just avoid the guy's question because it's absurd. Like the cases where abortion happens in the third trimester are like nearly exclusively because both the life of the mother and the unborn fetus are at risk and that the pregnancy is not going to be viable. That's like, and it's horrific because this is not, the mother nobody wants it when it happens that late. Like there may be like, I don't know, maybe there's cases where it's different, but like I've never heard any. Nobody wants it when it happens, like even like after like basically in the third trimester. It's got to be so rare that anybody wants it at that point. Anyway, here's some right wing influencers talking about how the new Speaker of the House is, you know, their guy. Like this guy's especially happy about it. This guy's Christian nationalist Rick Green.
I got to tell you, man, known this guy for a while. He has been a champion for liberty, especially religious liberty, but frankly, a Constitution guy. This is a constitutional attorney for Alliance Defending Freedom. This is one of our guys, folks. This man has a biblical worldview. I'm in tears. I'm literally in tears because it's a moment where we've been praying for this. We've been praying for leaders that have a fear of God, that we know have a foundation of biblical truth. I mean, that's what we want. We just want someone that'll stand for truth, and you got to know truth to do that. This is a moment to stop what you're doing and thank God for this happening.
I mean, if you believe that this is a good thing, you should be thanking Jim Jordan for being completely fucking incompetent and so unlikable that that people didn't vote for him just literally because he's unlikable. So here we go. We got David Barton, fake historian David Barton, who we've actually seen going all the way back to the 80s in videos that we watch on this channel, sometimes on the Satanic Panic show. He's thrilled, just absolutely fucking thrilled that this guy is the Speaker of the House.
And founder of wallbuilders.com and Victory News contributor David Barton is very familiar with the new Speaker. We spoke to him recently right after Mike Johnson was elected on the House floor.
Yeah, we know Mike very well. We've been friends for years. Mike is the guy that has been a leader and a fighter in really the conservative, Christian, pro-life, pro-marriage movement. I think Mike has a better grounded biblical worldview that's really clear with the way he thinks and speaks. He understands the history of America, the history of the institutions. He understands.
I'm real worried when David Barton starts talking about how somebody understands the history of the United States. That's a bad fucking sign.
Prosperity, as George Washington said in his farewell address. He has that view of history that is really unique. There's not that many people who understand American history from the founders' perspective and what they intended. So he's very good at that.
All right, David Barton, we thank you for your insight into somebody that you know well, who's now the Speaker of the House. Gotta like that.
You gotta love it. This is the God guy, and we thank God for putting the God.
This is the God guy, and we thank God for putting the God guy in a fuck you. Fuck you. Great coverage of this, by the way, from the podcast. I've been plugging them a lot lately. It's White Christian American Jesus, Straight White American Jesus, or I forget what, I think it's Straight White American Jesus is the name of the podcast. Great coverage from them on this, because this is their beat. This is the Christian nationalism is actually their beat. That's the entirety, not the entirety, but that's the vast majority of what their podcast is about. Whereas my show is not specifically about that, though we do end up covering that a lot. Here we go. We got the former president of the United States here, and spelling is his passion, as you will see in this clip. He could win a spelling bee.
You know how you spell us, right? You spell us, U.S. I just picked that up. Has anyone ever thought of that? I just picked that up. A couple of days I'm reading, and it said us. And I said, you know, if you think about it, us equals U.S. Isn't it? Now, if we say something genius, they'll never say it.
Fucking genius. Wonder if he was trying to imply that it's like the United States, or if he just fucking thought, hey, this is pretty interesting. Actually, we got a word. It's two letters, and I know how to spell it. My fucking God. Up next, we got Kimberly Guilfoyle. She is going to talk about how the first lady went for a walk on the beach, but that's not really the funniest part of it. It's well, you'll see. You'll see.
As the risk of war escalates in the Middle East, Biden takes this week, once again, taking a breather with a walk along a Delaware beach, even as Israel warns of Hamas's efforts to make chemical weapons and the continued outcry over hostages being held captive by these terrorists.
They held them and promoted them to the rank of captain. That's what being held captain it means. It's like being captive, but you've been promoted. Here's the former UN rep to Israel, Dan Gillerman, and he seems nice. He seems great. I'm not terrified of this man at all.
I just want to ask you then about something else he said in his speech, which is about the collective punishment, as he put it, of the Palestinian people. And I want to talk about that in the context of the blockade and keeping fuel out of Gaza. I just wonder if you think that that is really necessary.
You know, I'm very puzzled by the constant concern which the world and also Britain, I must say, Mark, is showing for the Palestinian people.
I'm concerned. My God.
Actually showing for these horrible, inhuman animals who have done the worst atrocities that this century has seen, and the worst atrocities that Jews have suffered since the Holocaust. I mean, you know, when the United States reacted to 9/11, I don't remember people shedding tears for the Taliban or Al-Qaeda. Your country, Mark, actually, Britain, actually joined them and even sent your royals to fight in Afghanistan. When the Ukrainians reacted to Russia's invasion,
this guy's an idiot.
People worrying about the poor Russian soldiers and whether they had enough food. All of a sudden, when it comes to Israel, everybody is becoming a great humanitarian, totally forgetting what happened 2.5 weeks ago, which is unforgettable and unforgiven.
What a monster that guy is. That the fucking thing that strikes me is like the dehumanizing language, calling them animals, calling like all of the people there animals. You know, we're not talking like that much about the conflict here because I don't know enough about it to really get into the nuts and bolts of what's going on there. But what I have noticed and what I'm very comfortable talking about is the bloodlust. I see bloodlust like on Twitter, sometimes even on Facebook from people I might be a little surprised to see it from. And it's bad. This is bad. This is how genocides happen. Hopefully cooler heads fucking prevail at some point, but I'm not hopeful here. Especially just because everybody just seems so fucking, everybody's just got like a fucking war boner. There's like people who are like, fucking Iran's going to get involved. And I'm like, well, you almost seem like you want that to happen, right? They almost want like a broader conflict so they can get their war boner going. And like, oh, it's just terrifying and horrible, and a little disconcerting and disappointing, because it's the people, not a lot of it, but some of it's from people who I never would have thought would have been like this. So up next we got looks like Greg Gutfeld. Greg Gutfeld thinks it's bad to call for people being deprogrammed when they're Trump supporters, but he thinks maybe the people who are think that the Palestinians deserve to live should be deprogrammed, because that's different. Because I think it's just because they have the wrong imaginary friend, or at least the Palestinians have the wrong imaginary friend. Because that's what this all comes down to.
And what they're trying to do now, is they're trying to create an artificial Holocaust to cancel out the real one.
What?
I think that's what they're doing, because they're trying to take away that power from the Jews. What? The irony is that Hillary, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, claimed that Trump supporters needed deprogramming, when it's actually large elements of the new members of their party that are suffering from really obvious brainwashing. When you're seeing it around, you can tell it's a virus, that it's all so emotional and so nonsensical that it is an actual contagion, and it's a hysteria. The only way you can counter this is through persuasion, through deprogramming, talking to them and showing them how they've been manipulated by false information. It's the only way to do it.
You can't deprogram us. We're going to deprogram you.
Exactly, Jesse.
Even Jesse Waters was like, "You're stupid." Even Jesse Waters is an idiot and was being kind of flippant there, but even Jesse Waters kind of saw like the problem with that. It's like, well, people that believe things you don't like need to be deprogrammed, and people like cult deprogramming actually doesn't work. That sort of the idea, like cult deprogramming doesn't work anyway. In fact, oftentimes it's rather abusive, and the person who gets deprogrammed is in a worse shape for it. But I don't think they're like talking about the sort of cult deprogramming maybe that people have talked about in the past. I think they just, I don't know what they mean. But then other interesting thing is Greg Gutfeld up there talking about, oh, people have been exposed to misinformation and disinformation. It's like, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear that shit from you. Like, why would I want, like, that guy has been spreading misinformation and disinformation as like a matter of his career. So up next, we got Marjorie the Gathering. She is going to attempt to censure Rashida Tlaib on the House floor. I don't think it's going to work.
Of the privileges of the House.
Will lady first yield back for 1 minute?
Will the gentlewoman first yield back her 1 minute?
Yes.
Okay. Now, for what purpose?
For what purpose is the gentlewoman seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I seek recognition to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows. A resolution censuring Representative Rashida Tlaib for anti-Semitic activity, sympathizing with terrorist organizations, and leading an insurrection at the United States Capitol complex.
What?
Whereas in May 2019, Rashida Tlaib said that she celebrated the Holocaust and felt a calming feeling when thinking.
When did Rashida Tlaib did not say that she celebrated the Holocaust?
About the genocide of millions of Jews.
She did not say that. Where the fuck did you, like, come on. I would know if she said that. We would all know if she said that.
2020, Rashida Tlaib retweeted an illustration with the caption, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." And this Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO slogan, has been adopted by Hamas and calls for the elimination of Israel and death to all Jews. Whereas in September 2022, Rashida Tlaib, as a member of,
like, if any of this is true, well, like we've looked up this stuff in the past. The women that they're called the Squad, right? Everybody tries to say, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic. You're all anti-Semitic." You to the extent that we can get this demographic information, the fucking Jews in their community seem not to think so because they vote for them. So
caucus displayed her disdain for Israel, saying, "You cannot claim to hold progressive values, yet back Israel's apartheid government."
I agree.
Instead of denouncing the horrors of Hamas,
in fact, something like 48% of the people of Israel who vote agree because they vote against the Likud party.
Israelis and demanding the release of all hostages held by Hamas, Rashida Tlaib stated on October 8th, 2023, "The path to the future must include lifting the blockade, ending the occupation, and dismantling the apartheid system that creates the suffocating, dehumanizing conditions that can lead to resistance." Whereas Rashida Tlaib exhibited her hatred for America by reposting a message on October 12th, 2023, blaming America for allowing the deaths of Palestinian babies at the hands of Israel. Whereas Rashida Tlaib led an insurrection at the United States Capitol complex on October 18th, 2023, which put members of Congress,
Okay, this part is, I can't fucking believe this. This part, like,
and Capitol visitors in danger by shutting down elevators, stairwells, and points of egress while obstructing official business in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, including a Senate Foreign Affairs Committee hearing. Whereas the insurrection led by Rashida Tlaib was organized by Jewish Voice for Peace, which the Anti-Defamation League calls a radical anti-Israel activist group.
Hey, Marjorie the Gathering, what is the just interesting question to ask. What do you suppose the ADL has said about Marjorie the Gathering in the past? Not that I fucking love the ADL. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of problems with the ADL, but it's interesting that she's using them as a source here, because I bet if we search their website, we name search her on their website, they probably have some nasty things to say about her too.
That advocates for a complete economic, cultural, and academic boycott of the state of Israel, and that believes Israeli policies and actions are motivated by deeply rooted Jewish racial chauvinism and religious supremacism.
Well, that's because that's what they believe. And like, that's not an uncommon sentiment among Jewish people in the United States and Europe, especially like progressive Jewish people. But Jewish people tend to be like more liberal and progressive anyway, you know, for whatever reason. Their history being what it is, not surprising to me that maybe they wouldn't tend to be right wingers. But yeah, this is not an uncommon view among like even conservative Jews, but like Reform Jews, a very common view.
Whereas members of the Southern Poverty Law Center, a far-left nonprofit organization, were present at the insurrection at the Capitol on October 18th, 2023. Whereas several insurrectionists at the Capitol belong to a group messaging chat called Global Intifada, which is the Arabic word for rebellion or uprising, and refers to a series of protests and violent riots carried out by Palestinians in Israel during the last century. Whereas by leading an anti-American and anti-Semitic insurrection on October 18th, 2023.
The other thing that I don't like, and it's actually, many people believe that it is anti-Semitic to say that if you don't support the nation state of Israel, that you don't like Jewish people, because you're conflating a nation state with a religious, ethnic, cultural group. And a lot of people are like, well, hey, that seems a little anti-Semitic, actually, if you think about it.
Rashida Tlaib followed Hezbollah's orders to carry out a day of unprecedented anger following an explosion at a Gazan hospital, lying about Israel's responsibility for the attack, which United States intelligence agencies said was not perpetrated by Israel. And whereas members of Congress who denounce the United States while praising terrorist organizations are unfit to hold office, now therefore be it resolved that Representative Rashida Tlaib be censured. Representative Rashida Tlaib forthwith present herself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and Representative Rashida Tlaib be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
Under Rule 9, a resolution offered from the floor by a member other than the majority leader or the minority leader as a question of the privileges of the House have immediate precedent only at a time designated by the chair within 2 legislative days after the resolution is properly noticed. Pending that designation, the form of the resolution noticed by the gentlewoman from Georgia will appear in the record at this point. The chair will not at this point determine whether the resolution constitutes a question of privilege. That determination will be made at the time designated for consideration of the resolution.
So that was a lot of words for we're not paying you any fucking attention, right? I think that's what the guy said. The guy said, no, not doing this. Not doing this. So this is the other thing that I feel comfortable talking about here is that the conflation of anti-Semitism with, and I don't even like the term Zionism because it's been used by a lot of anti-Semites. So I'll just say the conflation of anti-Semitism with not liking the fucking Likud party and the way that they have handled their business and they're in the Middle East, the way that they have dealt with the West Bank and Gaza. It is not anti-Semitic to criticize the behavior of a political party. It just isn't. And if that were the standard, then fucking 47 to 48% of the voting population of Israel would also be anti-Semitic because they fucking hate that fucking party too. There's a liberal pushback against this in Israel that doesn't get any play. Nobody ever talks about it. Go look at the results of go look at the results of elections. It's pretty close. Anyway, we're going to move on here. Here's Jenna Ellis pleading guilty to, I believe this is in Georgia. Because that's where everybody be pleading guilty because it's like that. I told everybody that Georgia's the slam dunk. And everybody was like, oh, it's going to be the thing about Jan 6. I mean, some people may go down for the thing about Jan 6, but Georgia's the fucking slam dunk. And people like Jenna Ellis know it. Here's Jenna Ellis throwing Rudy Giuliani under the bus. Let's go.
Thank you, Your Honor, for the opportunity to address the court. As an attorney who is also a Christian, I take my responsibilities as a lawyer very seriously, and I endeavor to be a person of sound moral and ethical character in all of my dealings. In the wake of the 2020 presidential election, I believed that challenging the results on behalf of President Trump should be pursued in a just and legal way. I endeavored to represent my client to the best of my ability. I relied on others, including lawyers with many more years of experience than I, to provide me with true and reliable information, especially since my role involved speaking to the media and to legislators in various states. What I did not do, but should have done, Your Honor, was to make sure that the facts the other lawyers alleged to be true were in fact true. In the frenetic pace of attempting to raise challenges to the election in several states, including Georgia, I failed to do my due diligence. I believe in and I value election integrity. If I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse. For those failures of mine, Your Honor, I have taken responsibility already before the Colorado bar who censured me, and I now take responsibility before this court and apologize to the people.
Damn. She gonna roll on them. She gonna roll on them hard. She wasn't ready for this. She gonna roll on them hard. And I don't think, whatever. She wasn't really pulling the strings, but she was the one talking to the media. She was the one out there saying what the fuck she was saying. I'm not big on the carceral state. I feel like the worst outcome here actually is going to be if like the underlings, there's a couple fucking sacrificial lambs, a couple fall guys, so to speak, within the underlings, and nobody up higher in the organization gets got. That's going to be the worst outcome actually, because you know what that tells you? That tells you all you need is a fall guy. And I think that's a likely outcome, but also I think this one might just be, Georgia might be the one. They may just not fucking care because there's no pardon there. You can't pardon. They got to do 5 years, even if they get pardoned. 5 fucking years on like a RICO case. Even if you get pardoned, you can't get out. If you get convicted on RICO, RICO laws in Georgia are particularly harsh. And in a lot of cases, they're used in a bad way, honestly, to just go after like drug dealers, essentially, people who aren't really racketeering in the way that the laws were meant to be applied. But in this case, pretty good racketeering. A lot of racketeering happening. So we got two of what I would call the opposite of palate cleansers. The first one's a little bit funny though.
Hello?
Yo.
Hey, what's up?
You want to come over and watch some scary movies?
I'm gonna pass on this one.
Oh, come on, bro. It's Halloween.
I'm just not into the demonic stuff, bro. I'll be praising Jesus. I'll be reading my Bible.
All right, whatever, you Bible thumper.
All right, bro. Bye. I love when God's children are entertained by me. I love when my children spend time with me.
Fucking so dumb. Also, that I thought a little something else was going on at the beginning of that video, honestly. Up next, we got this is also the opposite of a palate cleanser. This, I don't know. I think this one might be, I think we might have got here. This one here might be fake, but I think we're going to run it anyway because it's funny. So just keep in mind that I think this could very well be a fake video.
This lady tried to touch on me at a massage place and then refused to give my money back. She going to jail. She tried to grab my genitals. She going to jail. And they wonder why Christians having a hard time making it to heaven. I stand for Jesus.
Yo. Went to a happy ending. Like, assuming that this is true, right? Assuming that isn't bullshit, which I'm like 50-50 on. The dude went to like a happy ending massage parlor and got mad about the happy ending. That's pretty weird. Anyway, up next is this one might be a bit of a palate cleanser. This is the best. This is definitely the best Halloween decorations, at least that I've seen on the internet recently. This is somebody made their Roomba into a ghost. Yep. That's a killer. Like, and for your kids, like when your kids come over, like when your kids' friends come over and stuff, that's great. That's a great Halloween decoration. So we're gonna look at a down ballot race here, not out of the area, not out of our area. This is in Richmond area, Virginia. This is Susanna Gibson. She's running for, looks like, Congress, and she did some, I believe she was on Chatterbait or maybe OnlyFans, but I believe she was camming with her husband on Chatterbait, and everybody's trying to make a big deal out of it. And I'm like, this is fantastic. I'd like vote for this lady. She's open-minded sort, in touch with the youths.
2 weeks away from Election Day, and Virginia's Republican Party taking further steps to warn voters of the online sex scandal surrounding House candidate Susanna Gibson.
Tonight, new at 11, we're hearing what the governor has to say about the explicit political flyers that his party has mailed out. Riley Wyatt is joining us live now to explain. Riley, what's the governor saying?
Yeah, Makia, Kurt, I asked Governor Youngkin about this campaign tactic, and he told me that he had not seen the mailers his own party sent out to thousands.
I bet he's seen her fucking Chatterbait channel, though.
I have this to say about Susanna Gibson and the scandal that's followed her.
This candidate's personal life is something that candidate needs to explain to people, and the Democratic Party needs to have an opinion on this.
These flyers began showing up in mailboxes in the 57th House District. The outside says do not open if you are under the age of 18 and warning explicit.
Well, that means that the fucking kids are all going to open that.
Material enclosed. Inside are censored quotes and screenshots from Democrat Susanna Gibson's public porn live stream.
Hell yeah.
In these videos, she allegedly performed sex acts with her husband and asked viewers to pay them money. Some 57th District voters I spoke with off camera tell me it seemed a tad extreme to push out her explicit content, even though it is something they say voters should know about. Political analyst Larry Sabato says it's unclear whether the flyers will hurt Gibson's campaign.
They have decided that this will benefit their candidate. You wonder whether perhaps a private survey indicated that Susanna Gibson was doing better than they expected her to, because that is a very competitive district. And it could even be said that under certain circumstances, it leans Democratic.
Gibson's campaign biting back in a statement accusing her opponent David Owen and the Virginia GOP of attempting a desperate attack to distract from the real issues. Governor Youngkin.
I think in California that might be illegal. That would be like against revenge porn laws in California.
This to say.
David Owen's a great candidate, and he's looking forward, and he's being very clear about what he's going to do for Virginians. Rein in cost of living and lower taxes and support law enforcement and stand up for educational excellence and make sure that students, in fact, have their parents engaged in their lives. That's what our candidates are doing. And if there's a candidate that needs to explain something, I suggest that the candidate do it and the Democrat Party do it.
I reached out to David Owen's campaign for comment tonight, but never heard back. Live and on your side at Virginia State Capitol, I'm Riley White.
This is fine.
Restaurant going viral on social media.
This is fine. There's no problem here. This is adults participating in an adult website, and she was doing it all with her husband. I mean, come on. I think this might actually blow back on these fucking people. Honestly, this might blow back on them. I think like moderates, even moderate Republicans, might be like, eh. Who knows though? Who knows? I just feel like there's a way in which this is sort of in the Richmond area, like sort of maybe, I think it might be suburbs of Richmond or whatever. I think they're right that this is like a, maybe like a very lean Republican district, or it might be very lean Democrat. And so we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But don't worry. Here's Jim Baker. Last night during the Catterday, I was confused. I thought Jim Baker had died and Pat Robertson had lived to be about 114 years old, but it turned out that I was wrong. Here's Jim Baker. Here's how they know. It's Jim Baker and Lance Wallanu. This is how they know that Trump is a Christian, actually.
So why people think Trump is not a Christian? Now, I happen to know, if I'm telling stuff that I only know because I know the people who have led him in the sinner's prayer. I mean, people who have literally prayed with him. And I know, Lance, you know people that have prayed with President Trump to accept Christ as Savior. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I just hope he doesn't think he has to accept Jesus into his heart several times a year in order to become a Christian.
Exactly.
You only get born again once, but I can tell you, Dr. Dobson prayed with him, James Robeson prayed with him, Pastor Maldonado prayed.
That's like a who's who can go fuck themselves, though, dude.
Those are just three I talked to that said he said the sinner's prayer with me, and he meant it. Trump has prayed 3 times that I know of to accept Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And we know of a
I'm
couple
sure
more.
one of them stuck.
Yeah, at least one of them stuck. That's right.
Even the fucking, even fucking, the co-host, I think that's Jim Baker's wife. She's like, even she knows this is bullshit, right? She's like, yeah. Here we go. This is Pastor Hank Kunneman. We don't usually cover him because he's kind of boring, but I found this, and this was pretty funny actually. He can't even do his congregation. He can't show up at church to head his congregation because he's just too busy being on fucking TV.
People say all the time, well, Pastor Hank, it's such a commitment that you're on Flashpoint. Yeah, it's been 3 years, and it's been a long 3 years. I am a very, very busy man. I juggle a lot. That is not a violin. That's called,
juggling violins would actually be a pretty fucking impressive feat if they were like full-sized violins.
Look at what we've produced. Children's books, children's animation, books for adults, messages 1-2 times a week, traveling with a message, being on TV once a week, filming Get Real with Hank, New Level with Hank and Brenda. You want to keep going?
So you're not a church pastor, you're a grifter.
Construction meetings.
so they can build a bigger church for him not to show up at.
On and on. That's why when people say, well, I just never can get with you, Pastor. I don't have time. And if you want to get that acquainted, I'm not your pastor because, there's just something about getting too familiar with people. It's dangerous.
He's like, I might start thinking of you as human and not just a fucking ATM.
It is. I'd rather be with God and do what he's called me to do and be as personable as I can. That's why I come on Saturday. I'm glad to meet you. And he said to us, I'm not being mean. I'm being nice.
What a dick. Like most pastors are like, at least, even if they're not that cool, they're at least pretending, right? This guy's like, I don't have time for you. I don't want to meet you. Why would I want to meet any of you people? He's like, you are just a cash machine for me, actually. He's like, act like you fucking know. Like, there's a way to go about that. You go, hey, I don't have time to meet everybody because I'm out spreading the word. Maybe next year, during the beginning of the year, I'll spend less time on the road and we can have more time to meet with congregants or whatever. Like, you could just tell some fucking lie like that. Instead, he's like, look how important I am. I don't have time for you, fucking scum. Like, what an interesting fellow. What an interesting fellow indeed. Speaking of interesting fellows, this is Pastor Greg Locke, who the first time I saw him, I was like, why is this gay man acting like this? And it turns out I don't think Pastor Locke is gay, but his loafers do seem a little bit light. Here's him. Here's him talking about the moon and whether or not we landed on it.
Of course we've been lied to by the government. Okay, I get that. Of course you can fake pictures. I get that. Do I believe we went to the moon? No. And you ought to sue your brain for non-support if you do believe we went to the moon. Nobody ever went to the moon. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Well, sir, that's just because you haven't listened to yourself.
50 years and we ain't been back, got more technology in your hand that they...
But we have been back.
Had to send a rocket up 50 years ago. Of course, we've never been to the moon, okay? Him and all these Twitter people, okay, we've never been to the moon, so go ahead and clip it and get me a Newsweek this week, whatever. Shut up.
So there's a way in which he is kind of giving the game there, right? Because part of what he does is to try to say provocative things to get people like, and this is exactly who clipped him here, Hemet Meta, the friendly atheist. So part of what he does is to say like ridiculous things to try to get these people to clip him. But like, what else do you do? Do you not like make fun of him? It's just like Ben Shapiro kind of does the same thing, right? Where he says stuff and like the way he got popular was by people like us kind of dunking on him. But like, what else do you do? Do you just, I don't know. There's no right answer here. Also, I think that he name dropped Hemet specifically so that Hemet would clip that. I mean, that's what I'd do, right? If he was like, I'm going to be on the Plex, I'd be like, yep, now you are. That's like my favorite genre of these kinds of videos, actually. Usually they end up talking about right-wing watch. They're like, right-wing watch. And then right-wing watch is like, well, we're clipping that. But now it's fun that he's talking about Hemet now. Maybe right-wing watch maybe got bored with old Pastor Locke there, and the best he can do is Hemet Meta. No shade on Hemet. It's just the right-wing watch is a bigger organization. Anyway, up next, we got Piers Morgan versus Jesse Waters on guns, actually. This ought to be interesting. Or not.
I know. And we haven't had that problem with the king since then.
I know.
With respect, as your friend.
Respectfully, here's my response. I cannot buy in the United States of America a Kinder Surprise chocolate egg. They're banned. They're banned on safety grounds because the little toys inside them might choke people. A British Prime Minister, I won't say which one, but one in the last few years, told me he was stopped at LAX because he had some for his nieces and they confiscated them because they were a health hazard. Now, I simply say, you're a country of many freedoms and many regulations. How about regulating guns in the way that you do Kinder Surprise chocolate eggs?
Oh man, fucking Piers Morgan's a giant piece of shit, but every time he comes onto American TV to talk about guns, it's just like very, very common sense shit.
Okay. With respect, Do forks make people fat?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
Well, they do. They do, don't they?
Guns don't kill people.
They do.
People kill people.
Guns also
Forks
kill people.
don't make you fat, Piers.
Guns do kill people.
Forks don't make you fat.
Want to jump in, Brian?
Yeah, a couple of things. Just on this in particular, his family spoke out. They were asking him to surrender. NBC's reporting that there was a note found. They don't know what the note says. They haven't said.
No, probably had the 14 words written on it from what we've learned. They're like, fucking Jesse Waters is really stupid, but let's bring on somebody even dumber than Jesse Waters to talk about this. And then they're like, we got Brian Kilmeade here. They're like, yep, we'll bring on Brian Kilmeade to pick up where dumbass Jesse Waters left off. Like, this is dumb. Like, if the same people are like, fentanyl's killing everybody. Well, it's like, is the fentanyl killing people, or is it the people using the fentanyl that's killing people? Like, at least have some consistency here. Like, yes, I guess the person has to wield the tool for the tool to be wielded, but the tool is the thing that kills the person. And, our gun culture is just so crazy here. And like, even most gun owners think our gun culture is crazy. It's going to break eventually. It has to. Anyway, here we're going to finish off the regular part of the show. I almost put this into red light, but the regular podcast part of the show was looking a little thin this week. We usually try to do 2 hours on the regular part of the podcast show, but we haven't been doing such a great job of that lately. I think it's mostly because I've been like burned out and stuff. But anyway, here's Anna Kasparian on the BPD podcast, and she's complaining about this birthing person shit again. She's actually comparing it to being called the N-word, which is fantastic.
So, to answer your question, you are correct. I do not like to be bullied or pressured into saying things or believing things that I do not believe. I find that terminology degrading. Okay?
Well, great. Then don't go into the medical field, because that's where this terminology is used.
Why? Personally, because I'm not a birthing person. Okay? I'm a woman.
What's wrong with being called a birthing person?
Well, first of all, not all women even have the capacity to get pregnant.
You're there. You come on now. You're starting to get it.
So it's degrading to them to be essentially to have their womanhood questioned if they're not.
What a point.
Unable if they're unable.
But that's what no. That's why in clinical settings it's separate.
Have kids to begin with, but also, I mean, look. This is the thing that annoys me about this entire issue and conversation, because they'll turn around and they'll say, no one's calling you a birthing person. Okay, does someone need to call an individual who finds the N-word offensive the N-word in order for him or her to find it offensive?
Okay, so this is obviously dumb, because the N-word is not being used in a clinical setting to describe a specific state of being of someone in a clinical setting.
Or degrading. You get what I'm saying?
Of course.
No one needs to be called that word to find it problematic or to have an issue with it. And besides which, I was called that, okay? Yes, in a medical setting, but this is a doctor who knows I'm a biological woman. Call me a woman. But I had a conversation with that doctor. Why did you feel the need to call me a birthing person? Like, where did that come from?
I don't believe you had this conversation. Is she pregnant? Was she pregnant at the time?
And in California, medical providers are basically like told that there will be penalties if they don't use the proper terminology or if they're caught doing anything discriminatory toward the trans community. Now, if they're actually doing something discriminatory toward the trans community, I think medical providers absolutely should face consequences. But the idea that we should change all of our terminology.
But I don't think that, I think that this is all I think this is all gonna, she probably found it on the fucking paperwork somewhere, right?
Even toward women who want to be called women in order to be inclusive is ridiculous to me. Now, if a transgender person wants to be called that, fantastic. I respect it. I'll do it. I'll engage in it. But I think in the context of my relationship with my doctors, I want to be called a woman. It's not that difficult.
I think your doctor, if they know you, they're just going to call you Anna. Hey, Anna. Or maybe Ms. Kasparian if you're that you have a more formal relationship with your doctor. And in many other contexts, they will refer to you as the patient. in many, many places. And in a specific things, they might refer to you as a birthing person. But I think that I think that it's oftentimes used more broadly for people who can or will give birth. I'm just not worried what it says on the medical forms. I'm worried, I'm more concerned, with my doctor. I have a great doctor. I actually have to pay out of pocket now. But she's great. I don't give a shit what it says on the forms. I don't go through the forms. I don't read them. If she asks me to read something, I'll read it. But if it says something weird on the form, I'm just going to ignore it because it's just some weird shit on the fucking form. Don't care. It's not a problem. It's probably not used even that often. Probably used in very specific circumstances on very specific forms. Maybe it's used more in California just because different kinds of regulation, but I don't know. I just know that I just don't know why Anna Kasparian feels like she has to keep bringing this up. She brought it up once and she could just let it go, right? She could be like, oh, well, people disagree. Some people agree, whatever. All these weird fucking TERFs are now using me to try to push their anti-trans agenda. Maybe I should shut the fuck up because maybe this doesn't matter that much. It's not like she spends her life at the fucking doctor's office. I think she's around my age. She's in very good health, has, enough money probably that she doesn't have to really do too much. And her socioeconomic status would indicate she's probably very healthy and, goes to the doctor maybe more than I do because she probably got great health insurance, but who knows? But I'm just not that concerned with what it says on the fucking forums. And in this case, I wonder if what's her relationship with the healthcare provider she has? If it's a great relationship, maybe this ain't the hill to die on because maybe you're going to fucking piss your doctor off and just make their day worse for no goddamn reason. Who fucking knows? Anyway, I think that, I don't know. For a while, I thought she was going to do this because I thought she was going to do that right-wing grift shift and try to go heterodox and go be friends with Barry Weiss and all them fucking weirdos. But it doesn't seem like that's what she's doing. So I think she's really just got a fucking bug up her butt about this for no real good reason. And it's to her detriment because generally she's been pretty good on things. Though when she talks about California, specifically talking about city life in Los Angeles, she's been not so great lately. But yeah, it's unnecessary, as someone in chat just said. There's no, and her when she gets on her bullshit about having to see homeless people in Los Angeles too. I'm like, why are you doing this? But I mean, I know why she's doing it. I think there may be a way in which she wants to leave that door open to pull a Barry Weiss, or it may just be that she likes the attention, or she could legitimately feel this way about these issues and not understand that just because she feels this way, it doesn't mean it's time to talk about it all the time. I don't fucking say everything I think. And some of the things I think are probably a problem. And so I think about them some more. Anyway, that's been the podcast portion of the show. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Thanks for all the new follows, new subs, and thanks for the raid from Literally Politically. We're checking out your channel at some point. Maybe we'll raid into you some night. This is Boomers by Periscope. I am going to change the color of the lights in this room and pour myself a cocktail, and we'll go on into red light.